Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea. Dear listeners, now we start English language service of Voice of Korea from Pyongyang, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Now present a mixed chorus, song of General Kim Il-sung. Enjoy your meal, chorus. Song of General Kim Jong-il. You're listening to VOK, Voice of Korea. News now. The international community praises the great leader Kim Jong-il, who dedicated his all to the people, regarding it as his lifelong motto to believe in the people as in heaven. The chairman of the Party for Peace and Unity has said that Kim Jong-il is a genuine leader of the people, who devoted his all to the prosperity of the country and happiness of the people. That is why the Korean people intimately trusted in and followed him, and hold him in high esteem as the eternal leader. The chairman of the Organization of Italian Dialectical Materialist Atheists praised leader Kim Jong-il as a true people's leader who passed away on a train fulfilled guidance for the people until the last days of his life with noble outlook on the people. The Democratic Congolese newspaper La Prosperity said the life of leader Kim Jong-il was the life of a benevolent father of the people who had devoted his all to the people. Nowhere in the world can be found such a country as Korea, where all people absolutely trust in and follow their leader, the newspaper pointed out. Youth and students from across the country making a study tour of the revolutionary battle sites in the area of Mount Baekdu visited the Mupo Bivouac and the Daehongdan Revolutionary Battle Site on the 22nd. The Mupo Bivouac is the place where the great leader Kim Il-sung camped in May 28 or 1939 on his way of advance to the homeland, leading the main force of the Korean People's Revolutionary Army. They looked around the site of headquarters, the site where the anti-Japanese war heroine Kim Jong-soo had cooked rice, and the site of campfire. Arriving at the Daehongdan Revolutionary Battle Site, they laid a floral basket and bouquets before the bronze statue of the great leader Kim Il-sung at the monument to the victorious Battle of Musan area and paid tribute to him. They went round the commanding post of the Taehongdan battle and other places. The officials and employees of the Pyongyang Children's Foodstuff Factory have achieved successes in the technical innovation and the development of new products over the past 5 years. The bean milk workshop has introduced ultra-high temperature sterilization method to increase the sterilizing effects and installed new equipment, boosting the production capacity nearly 2 times. The baby milk powder workshop has solved the scientific and technological problems to economize the production cost as much as possible in cooperation with the researchers of the Life Science Faculty of Kim Il-sung University. The workers at the bean milk powder workshop have manufactured the container washing robot to increase the productivity. The factory has introduced more than 400 valuable technical innovation plans and overfulfilled the assignments under the National Economic Plan on all indices every year. 5 production processes of the factory were awarded the Food Security Management Authentication. The technicians of the factory succeeded in developing over 10 kinds of 6 varieties of functional foodstuffs this year alone. The dried flower workshop of the Pyongyang Floriculture Institute is increasing the variety of dried flowers. The dried flowers keep the humidity and flexibility of fresh flowers almost as they are. They are not fragile and keep their regular tints and shapes, so people can use them to decorate living rooms and office rooms and exchange them as souvenirs as well. The dried flower stand at Pyongyang Department Store No. 1 serves the dried flower products, including bouquets and floral baskets made of different kinds of flowers, such as rose and zinnia, and natural plants like barley and foxtail millet, and other natural grass and cactuses of rare species. They are in great demand. The workshop plans to increase the variety of dried flower products. The technology of making dried flower was patented in Korea. The movement to acquire new land has been actively conducted in different parts of Korea this year. Officials of ministries, national agencies, provinces, cities, and counties, including the Ministry of Agriculture, found out a large amount of new land reserves on the spot. In south of Hwanghae Province, the farmland and the area around rivers have been strictly surveyed to obtain a vast area of new land. In Gyeonghong County of North Hamgyong Province, bold plan to increase the area of cropland through river improvement was mapped out, and manpower and means mobilized for obtaining large area of new land. The places unfit for tree planting on the roadside were selected as arable land in Nampo City. In Kaesong City, new land reserves were obtained in the vicinity of reservoirs and rivers and damp grounds between the fields. Besides, the work to expand the cropland area by reclaiming tidal land was promoted. Propaganda activities of the working people's organizations are brisk in Korea. The art propaganda schools of the Central Committee of Kim Il-sung's Kim Jong-il's Youth League, the Central Committee of the General Federation of Trade Unions of Korea, the Central Committee of the Union of Agricultural Workers of Korea, and the Central Committee of the Socialist Women's Union of Korea have conducted agitation activities to increase production at the production sites across the country on more than 3,500 occasions, forcibly encouraging the drive for attaining the goals of the 5-year strategy for national economic development. According to the South Korean online newspaper Saju-sibo, the People's Solidarity for Sovereignty made public an appeal on the 17th, calling on the entire people to turn out in the struggle against the U.S. demand for increase of the share of defense expenses. The appeal abused that the United States spends the upkeep of U.S. forces to kill the innocent people, prevent peace, prosperity, and reunification on the Korean Peninsula, and obstruct the inter-Korean exchange by dint of sanctions against the North. It called on all people to fight in the spirit of do-or-die resistance and check the U.S. demand for increase of the share of defense expenses. And that's the end of the news read by Kim Hyun-ok. This is Voice of Korea. This time you will listen to the immortal masterpiece, Song of Korea, written by the great leader Kim Il-sung during the anti-Japanese revolutionary struggle. 19th-century trumpet quartet, Forested Swing.
present an aphorism of the respected Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un. Our single-hearted unity, formed by the leader, the party, and the masses, with a great ideology and warm feelings and affection, is the greatest wealth and cannot be compared to millions of tons of gold. Here is an anecdote. The root. In October 2101 or 2012, Soviet personnel of the People's Army got to refurbishing parks in Pyongyang City through to the noble intention of the respected Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un. One day Kim Jong-un met leading personnel of the People's Army and said, "The service personnel should do the project qualitatively in a short period without giving any trouble to the people. I entrusted the People's Army with the project for refurbishing the parks in Pyongyang from the major purpose that it should do more good things for the people and thus clearly show them its nature and faith as their army, and strengthen the great army people unity. The great army people unity is the root and true feature of our society. If we fail to achieve the great army people unity, we cannot win the fight with the enemy," he stressed. Bearing his lofty intention in mind, the service personnel refurbished the parks wonderfully, true to their duty as the army of the people. The great army people unity is the root of our society. The Korean Revolution will only win victory thanks to the great army people unity, which was created by the great leader Kim Il-sung and further strengthened and developed by the great leader Kim Jong-il, and is consolidated by the respected Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un all the more. You've been listening to an aphorism of the respected Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un and an anecdote titled The Root. This is Voice of Korea.
Now you will enjoy meal chorus. We acknowledge you only. Now you will enjoy light music for guitar and violin. We cannot live apart from his embrace. Now you will appreciate the song, Ode to the Mother Party. All our victories start and shine bright in your bosom. You show only beautiful and rosy future for us. Your leadership of victory is so great to make this country more powerful. Oh, the great mother, the Workers' Party of Korea. With the invincible spirit, we are going to the future. and music. Future of Korea.
you will enjoy male chorus. Prosper the year of the Workers' Party.
country female quartet and pangchang. Happy tomorrow.
Dear listeners, with this we conclude the English language service of Voice of Korea from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Voice of Korea presents its English language service for Europe between 15 and 16 hours UTC, between 18 and 19 hours UTC, between 21 and 22 hours UTC, and between 13 and 14 hours UTC on 7,570 kHz and 12,015 kHz. For North America, between 15 and 16 hours UTC and between 13 and 14 hours UTC on 9,435 kHz and 11,710 kHz. And for Northeast Asia, between 4 and 5 hours UTC and between 6 and 7 hours UTC on 7,220 kHz, 9,445 kHz, and 9,730 kHz. Goodbye, this is Pyongyang.